freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your U.S. Open recap pod. And joining me to break it all down, Greg DuCharme is here. Greg, good to have you.
Great to be back, Rick. What a tournament, and boy, I'm thrilled. This tournament had some moments where I was, my emotions kind of went up and down. I was a little unimpressed for a little while. I was thinking, all right, I've seen better events. And that's what I mean by unimpressed. I've seen better majors. And then all of a sudden, today, it completely culminated into just one of my favorite majors of recent memory. This one was awesome. I give this an A+.
There was a moment where basically the top 5 players in the world were leading or one shot back of the. It was just awesome. It was unbelievable. Mark Immelman also here. Mark, you got to enjoy this one from home. I hope it was everything that you were expecting it to be. A great finish.
Well, yeah. Before we went on the air, I was telling Greg, I'm like, man, I could get used to this sort of stuff. Sitting on the couch, tweeting about golf is actually pretty easy, and there's not the pressure of having to say something insightful about some incredible golf shot. But Greg, I'm not like you, bro. I was glued to the television. I thought this was highly impressive. Hell, when Louis made that birdie putt on 10, I nearly fell off the couch. But from the word go, when Rahm birdies the first couple holes, Rory makes an early birdie, Brooks gets going. I was hooked, and I thought it was some sort of an event. And I'm getting ahead of ourselves, but bravo, Jon Rahm. I mean, what a way to close something out that essentially, if anyone deserved something, it was him.
Mark, I am with you on today. I was glued to the TV from the get-go today. Earlier in the week, there was some head shake. But here's my point. As the week went on, it got better and better and better, which I think makes for a great event. So I was very happy with the way that today played out.
All right, gentlemen, grab a beverage. I've essentially torched the outline. We're going to see where this goes from here. Jon Rahm wins the U.S. Open, his 6th PGA Tour victory, his first major championship. Of course, he does it at Torrey Pines, and I'm going to try to do this a little bit chronologically because of the way everything played out. It was so enthralling. And Mark, I'm just going to throw this right back to you because you've already mentioned it. Rahm started the day 3 shots back of the trio at the top. He immediately birdies 1. He immediately birdies 2. And then he almost flies the green on 3 and is stuck in kind of a troublesome spot. He hits a great flop shot and makes par. That was the moment that I was thinking, oh boy, here we go. Rahmbo's back in this thing.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy to me, given how we set the thing up in Saturday evening's pod, Rick, where I was sort of trying to handicap the field, and like I said to you, I could make a decent case for anyone on the first page of the leaderboard that they could pull this thing off. But the way he came out and played, and what I saw, and I'd be keen to see Greg's commentary on this because I respect his opinion. He was the guy that didn't really look like there was a disaster waiting around the corner. I know there were 1 or 2 hiccups on the back 9 over there, but that's inevitable in a U.S. Open. But the way he was driving the ball, the way he was controlling the iron game, the way he was putting, and more than anything else, the relationship and the banter and the communication between he and Adam Hayes were just so on point. And you could see the stress. I mean, that's real when you're playing for a major championship. Heck, when you're playing for a PGA Tour championship and trying to win it stressful. But you could just see a guy that looked like he knew it was sort of his time. And he never looked phased. And when things kind of weren't going his way, he also didn't try and panic, which I've seen Jon Rahm do before at this very event, in fact. I had him at Torrey Pines in February, and it was he and Victor Hovland. And on 14, they're both in the show, and they both hit it down the left side of 14, and they both blow it along left on 14, which you never do, and essentially cost themselves the event. But it looked like he knew, it was almost Tiger-esque in a way. He knew that if he just stays upright, things are going to probably fall in his favor. And then to make that fast finish that he did, that was vintage. And I mean, what a way to close out your first major championship. I mean, he must be flying so high right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, the middle of that round, Greg, where he makes birdie on 9, then he goes into the Gauntlet, 10 through 17. Those holes, every single one of them playing over par. The hardest holes on the course are there. He played 10 through 16 at even. He parred them all. He looked in control. He had that look about him. I'm going to save the last 2 holes here for a second, but I agree with Mark. My takeaway from this was Rahm was dialed in. He was kind of going with the ebbs and flows of this round, kind of understanding a major championship. And while names were flying up the leaderboard, flying down the leaderboard, he was just hanging tight, waiting for his opportunities.
You really see why he's the number 1 player in the world, right?
That's right.
Is so well-rounded. You mentioned what he did on 3. The up and down on 3 was perhaps a little bit of luck to stay up and not go down into the penalty area. Maybe that's a little bit of luck. That's what you need to win major championships quite often. But the next one I go to is the shot on 11. That up and down on 11, that was a hole that everybody seemed to be missing to the right. You saw Bryson's meltdown kind of started there at 11. Rory, I believe, hit it. No, Rory hit a great shot there, but maybe 3-putted or he didn't make birdie.
No, he made
anyway.
par. I think
he made par. So he 2-putted from the middle of the green. But anyway, bunch of players hit it over to the right. Rahm included. He hits it into the bunker, very nearly misses the bunker, and that's a tough shot. He's short-sided, and he hits this shot out that it comes out so soft, and it just lands like a beanbag on the green. It was awesome. That was an awesome shot, and that's why you feel that way, Mark. That's why you feel like there's no disaster coming for him. He plays a very consistent shot shape off the tee. He strikes his irons very solidly, and when he misses, he has the ability to get up and down from just about anywhere. So watching him, there was a lot of confidence.
Well, I wanted to comment quickly on your observation about number 11, because somewhere during the final round there, I tweeted the holes 12, 15, 16. They play 14 to a certain extent, but certainly 12, 14, 15, 16 just seem to play harder late Sunday because the breeze sort of kicks up. And it's a cross on 14, but otherwise 12 is in, 15's a cross, and that fairway is so narrow, and it's just, the thing's almost a par 5. But 11 with that back right hole location, and this is for the folks who didn't think Torrey was a good venue, right? You look down, you play from on high, it's almost a club downhill, you play back into the wind. This green looks like the size of a thimble. It's well bunkered, and every other hole location on the green is narrow. But back there in that little alleyway, if you hit it in the front bunker, unless it plugs, it's actually the most easy bunker shot I've arguably seen on the PGA Tour. And I wanted to say something about this, to say these folks aiming at that flag, if you slide it off there close, great. But if you hit one on the green 50 feet short, the 2-putt is just so hard. And it's almost easier to get the thing up and down out the sand. And when John took on the line that he did, I was like, it sort of looks like he knows this, which he should, because he's won here. So he hits the thing in the bunker, and if you draw a lie, you got an uphill lie, the green sits toward you. For these guys, that's a 8 out of 10 sort of proposition. So I thought that shot down 11 was highly calculated.
It going at the flag. That's interesting, because a lot of guys who hit it over that bunker were way down at the bottom of the hill down there. Unfortunately, I can't think of an example past Bryson, but I saw at least 2 or 3 other players.
Well, Louis was
as my
down
head
there
was
as well.
spinning. Louis was down there. Okay, there's another. As my head was spinning, I was watching these guys down there saying, "Man, you got to be." So I thought the shot Rory hit was such a good shot, right at up the center of the green there. But hey, it's an interesting point. If that feels like a really easy bunker shot, then I'm all for it. But it looks like you're short-sided there. It looks like trouble. And I always feel like when Jon Rahm needs a shot around the green, he has what it takes to execute it. Whether it's one he should get up and down, one he shouldn't, like the one on 18. I mean, the one on 3, any of those. I always feel like he has that ability to pull it off, which showed today.
You talk about par 3s, dude. The shot he hit into 16, that was high octane. I mean, you're playing into a quartering breeze there. Now that whole location is hard, back on that plateau on the left-hand side, because you're cooked in that left bunker. We saw Brooks in there. There were a few guys that hit it in there that had nothing. And that shot he hit in there, that was out of the blueprint. And when he hit this shot, I was like, wow. I have the luxury of seeing these guys playing on a Sunday afternoon, vying for titles when they've got all of their incredible facilities on full display, the adrenaline surging, and these guys are hitting shots that they typically wouldn't. But in a major championship, it's just different. And 16 asks you all sorts of questions, and he came through there with a freaking dot. I mean, that shot that he hit was off the charts good.
He would 2-putt on 16 for par, and he would step on 17 tee, Greg, one shot behind Louis Oosthuizen. At that time, Jon Rahm was 4 under par. Louis was 5 under. He hits his approach to 24 feet, 7 inches, has this left to right breaking putt. He's aiming multiple feet outside the cup. He buries that, and then, of course, he backs it up with another birdie on 18 to post a 6 under lead in the clubhouse, and then he has to wait.
The putt, the putt that he holed on 17 was, I mean, this is the thing that you're kind of waiting for. Oh, who is that?
Who is that?
Who's
Kyle
making all that noise?
Kyle Porter from somewhere at Torrey Pines. Where are you, Kyle?
I'm about to get a bag of balls and just pound some 4 irons out here. I'm on the
Nice.
driving.
Right? You on 16T?
No, I'm on the driving range.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
well, welcome.
I'm gonna get them to put my name on one of those USGA markers and just set it up there for me. Just Porter. Be awesome.
Have them crank the lights on for you so that you can go all night, a la Bryson.
Yeah, I've got my camera guy out here. I might just use his lights to get some hacks in out here. Hey, how good was that ending?
You tell us. You tell we're at the point. We just got to Jon Rahm 17, birdie 17, he birdies 18. Tell us how good that finish was.
Well, I was with Rory, I was with Bryson, I was with Brooks, and then Rahm starts. I mean, I heard you guys talking about it. He hit. I mean, it was like he had a 20-foot birdie putt for 9 straight holes, and that was the deal, And I'm walking up as he hits the putt on 17, and so I heard that. I didn't see it, and then I walk all of 18. And whenever he hit the shot out of the bunker on 18, I thought he hit it too far to the right. And I think that, I mean, obviously he was playing away from the pond, but I just thought he gave himself too long of a putt. And I looked over at Ryan Lavner, who was standing next to me, and he goes, he's going to bury this in your face after you questioning his decision to hit it out that far to the right. And sure enough, I mean, it was a really great, hey, this is a major championship moment, right? You don't always get that at a major, and that's what it felt like hey, we're going to look back. This will be that putt, both of those putts will be replayed for 20 years, at the U.S. Open. And I was really glad that at the end of a week where people kind of lit Torrey up a little bit, that was the ending that we got from it.
24 feet, 7 inches on 17, 18 feet, 3 inches on 18. And Mark, I'm happy to do this. I'm happy to throw the stats out the window because statistically he's unlikely to make one or both of those, but it seems as if Jon Rahm has a knack for this. I'm thinking of the 66-footer that he buried on Dustin Johnson at the BMW Championship. I'm thinking of the eagle that he made on that very 18th green at Torrey Pines. He goes and rolls both of these in. There is something that he is able to summon with the flat stick in these big moments.
Yeah, all the great champions have that sense for the moment. I mean, Woods is obviously the master at it. People call it will, where they will a putt into the hole. But I think maybe this is what Phil Mickelson saw when he saw a young Jon Rahm come to Arizona State. Everybody hits the ball great. I can point you to Wilco Nienaber. It will turn your head to its side when he hits it. But there's something about putting it together and turning great striking and great short game skills and all this sort of stuff into tournament wins, and then showing up when it means something, and just lurking like Jon Rahm did the entire time. You let some guy run out front and you hang in the peloton because you got the closing kick. And I find it curious, Greg, because the left to right putt for the right hander is the hardest one to commit to. And all of the putts he's made of consequence, these two we talk about, the one down 18 there at Torrey a couple of years ago to win, that had all sorts of movement, but overall it was moving from left to right. And then the one at the BMW, that thing was turning huge from the left-hand side. So I find it curious that the most awkward putt for the right-hander is the one that he just seems to absolutely thrive on when the chips are down.
Yeah, I think some of that has to do with the fact that he's a fader of the golf ball. He likes to see that curve throughout the entirety of his game. And sometimes the left to right putt can give you, it's easy to see the line because you're looking, the line is in front of you. So sometimes that can be easy. You got to make a good stroke, and it's uncomfortable for most. I totally agree with you, but there are definitely some players where it's a little easier for them to see that line. And so I don't know what it is for Jon Rahm, why he likes those putts, why he's made so many of them. I don't know if that's just a coincidence that he's had those putts in the biggest moments, like Tiger has had a lot of those too, or if it's something that he prefers. But I look at what Jon Rahm did throughout the week on the greens, and this was just, you could feel this coming. If we had talked about this last night, say, one thing that I would have pointed out is it felt like Jon Rahm was playing poorly leading into this round. It didn't feel like he had his best stuff. It didn't feel like he was making a whole lot of putts. He gained 3.62 putts for the week. And on the last day, he gained a large majority of those, 2.5. So I think today's round was a great putting round for him. And he still, it took until the last 2 holes to make it a great putting round. So you kind of had this feeling like nothing has happened for Jon Rahm this week. Nothing has really happened, and he's still here. And that can be a really good sign for a player like that, because all of a sudden something happens and this is what we get, and he does it in the biggest moment. So I couldn't be more impressed. Everybody knew that this guy was going to win in January, and everybody thought he was going to win after what happened at Memorial happened. It's like every step of the way, Jon Rahm was the guy for this week, and that's a lot of pressure, and he pulled through, and it's not easy to do.
Our friends over at William Hill are licking their wounds this week after Jon Rahm was victorious. The last player to birdie KP the final 2 holes to win a major by 1 shot, 1998 Masters. That was Mark O'Mara. That's that via Justin Ray. And this is notably not only his first major title, but I don't even know if you remember this, KP. We talked about this before, I think, the PGA Championship. I said, how many majors does Jon Rahm have to play in and not win before you start getting worried about that being a thing?
I said 20.
And this was 20.
Yeah. How about that? I got a prediction right. After Bryson ejected my one and done pick, and he just goes 44 scorched earth on the second 9 here. Just an abomination of a back 9. Just horrendous. No, I think Greg's point about Rahm is really good, and I can't remember if we talked about this or I said it on HQ or something, but I thought Rahm won the tournament on Friday night or Friday afternoon whenever he played his second round, because he had nothing. Like, he had nothing from tee to green, and he even said that afterwards. He's like, I was like lost, and he shot a 70, and like I think that early in his career he would have shot a 74. And that's not like, I don't want to do the whole like, oh, he's got his temper under control, whatever. Like, I think he just did a great job of not letting bad breaks or bad shots affect the next 3 or 4 shots, because that's what would happen. Like, I don't care about your temper. I care about, are you thinking about that bad break for 6 holes or whatever? And I thought he did a great job of this. Or of that early in the tournament on Thursday, or specifically on Friday, because he just didn't have it, and he posted a number and kept himself in it going into the weekend.
And Saturday too, Kyle. It was on what was it 14 on Saturday,
where his ball got caught up in the flag.
Yeah, he makes double there, which was like a kind of a bizarre thing. And he said on Saturday, how bad are you? There was one moment where he was on, his audio was on after he hit a shot, and I want to say it was 12 before the double bogey. And he just says, how bad are you swinging right now, bud? Talking to himself. And you just had this, and he shot, to your point, Kyle, he shot 70, and you just knew that something good had to come of this. And it did. Yeah. It takes real guts to be able to hang around that long and wait for something really good to happen that deep into the tournament. I couldn't be more impressed.
Hey, real quick, I gotta go. gotta go because my phone's dying. But two things. One, I thought it was fitting that Rahm was the one that emerged from like I called it a 10 Lamborghini pileup. You had like all 10 of the top 10 in the world in the, like vying for the championship. I thought it was fitting that Rahm emerged because I think that I think over the last 3 or 4 years, he's.
Yep, there it goes.
And his phone died. What do you think he was going to say? Over the last 3 or 4 years, I wonder what he was going to say there.
Who knows with Kyle?
I don't
We
know.
never know.
But I do think that Kyle and I, maybe last week or the week before, we were asked who is the best player in the world right now. And Kyle and I were on Rahm. I think, Rick, you and Coach were on DeChambeau, I think, if I remember
Probably.
correctly.
That sounds about right.
I'm not bragging about this. I'm just saying, you look at Jon Rahm and what he was doing was, just a little bit. What he was doing was so close. He was poorly performing and still finishing in the top 10 time and time again. And he was just, there was no magic. Nothing spectacular was happening. And all of a sudden, the spectacular happens here at a major. And I think he asserts himself as the best player in the world right now, without question, which is kind of cool to see.
Well, speaking of that, Mark, it was at the Northern Trust last year when Dustin Johnson ran away with it. He won by 10 shots or whatever it was over Harris English. He became, at that time, the #1 player in the world, taking it from Jon Rahm. With this victory, Jon Rahm will wake up tomorrow officially the #1 player in the world.
Yeah, and Dustin's been a #1 player for a long, long while now. And that maybe might be the little burr in the saddle that he needs to sort of go, let's get some traction here. Let's stop bouncing around between putters. Let's stop fiddling with driver shafts. Let's try and settle on a golf club setup. Let's try and settle on what we're doing technique-wise. And let's start playing Dustin Johnson-style golf. But, the Jacob in our chat said the comparison was between Rahm and Spieth, incidentally.
That's right.
Yeah. But Jon Rahm, like I said earlier, as a golf instructor, I still find scar tissue when I watch golf like this, and I'm watching people that I'm either friendly with or I care for. And when you in this sort of situation, the weak link that a player has, because every player has one. I don't care how good they are. And you're always waiting for that situation where that weakness will be exposed. And then your sincerest wish is that somehow this player just gutses up a little bit and delivers the shot required. Or if they don't, they're missing a place where at least you can sort of turn the bad good or turn the bad decent or survive the sort of situation. And when I watched golf this afternoon, every single one of those Lamborghinis Kyle talks about on the leaderboard there, to me, each and every one of them looked like there was just a little something that wasn't completely there. It wasn't all 6 or 7 gears. They were operating on like 4 or 5. There was a bunch of adrenaline going, but you were sort of waiting for the misstep. And it came about with every single one. Jon Rahm, on the other hand, was the one that I looked at, and I'm like, this guy's got everything operational. And if it was up to time, and time is the qualifier oftentimes in these big events, Jon Rahm was going to win. He would just outlast the rest.
Congratulations to Jon Rahm. He is our U.S. Open champion. A little bit further down the board, Louis Oosthuizen, another runner-up finish. Greg, this now his 6th runner-up finish of his career in major championships. Louis entered the day as part of that trio atop the board at 5 under. Our friends over at William Hill had installed him as the favorite last night. I didn't think he played particularly poorly. He shot a 71. He hung in there all day long. He birdied 18. The misstep came at 17, which unfortunately, which is him yanking it into the penalty area, left off the tee, which immediately flashes you back to the shot he hit at the Zurich in a playoff where he sprays it right off the tee into the water and dashes him and Schwartzel's chances in that event.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good one to bring up because I look at Louis in these majors and I don't think of him as somebody who chokes, right? I don't think that Louis gives up opportunities. He plays well and gets beat, it seems. Perhaps Perhaps this today was a choke on 17T. He really had a chance and he didn't execute. He loses by 1. It's easy to call that a choke. I mean, you got to hit that ball to the. You can't hit it left. You cannot hit it in. It's the only place you can't hit it. And so I think that's a little bit disappointing for Louis. The one at the Zurich was definitely a choke. He hit it way right there into the water. But all that being said, this guy impresses me so much because he too, like Rahm, is extremely. His game is so complete, and he doesn't have the firepower that Rahm has or some of these other big hitters. He's a shorter version, but he's a great driver of the ball. He hits tons of fairways, and it's let him down a couple of times recently, as you mentioned, Rick. But he can hit great iron shots, and he putts great. And a couple of people I was talking to before the round were saying Louis will crumble, and I just had this feeling he may not win. He's great at coming in second, but he's not going to crumble. And he just continues to fight and find himself right there when all the chips are down. He's one of the last standing. And like Mark was saying, somebody was playing without something, and they had this moment where they lost the tournament. And for Louis, it didn't happen in that 12 through 15 stretch. He plays those holes even par, and he makes it all the way to 17. He lasted an extremely long time, and it was his tournament to win. He played under the highest amount of pressure all day long. I loved what I saw from him. I was just a little disappointed hitting it left on 17.
Outside of one shot, Mark, I outside of the tee shot on 17, I thought Louis was great. He was playing with Mackenzie Hughes, who was giving them all away on every single hole. Louis played the stretch from 12 to 16, very difficult stretch in even par. He made par on every single one of them. He was hitting the driver well. I think he hit one bad shot.
Yeah, I want to go back to the second shot on the 11th. Now look, I'm going to be the typical armchair quarterback now, which I hate because it's easy to watch golf and think you know it all. So I'm going to qualify my observations, so don't rip me. But I thought the shot selection on the second shot on the 11th, the par 3, where he missed it to the right, it was curious to me. Everything there is pretty hard underfoot, that golf course, because there's the sand base. And then he's in a situation where he's 15 feet, 20 feet off the edge of the green. You've got a green that pitches away from you. And it looked like the lie was sort of burned out. And he's going for something where they did a close-up of how he released the club through the ball, and there was a whole lot of wrist flick. It was like he's trying to add extra loft to the wedge. Where something like that, now again, I did not see the lie up close, so I might be wrong, where he could have went a lot more basic on that. Just dribbled the thing onto the fringe, allowed the camber of the green to do the rest, and give yourself 3, 4, 5 feet putting uphill as opposed to going for the flopper, blasting the thing beyond the cup to where Bryson putted from, 10, 12 feet, downhill left to right, and those are the hard ones. So I thought that shot was a little curious, but he knows better. That's just my observation, looking from afar. And then, you don't want to call it a choke. I tweeted when he knocked in that par putt on 16, I'm like, this is real. This boy's going to close it out now because that showed big stuff. And you get there on 17. David Fairty said it best. He goes, you can hit Mexico's on the right-hand side of that fair on 17 there, and you can hit it to like Kingdom Come on the right and be okay. And we saw this out of Bryson, and Louis did the same thing on 14. We're down the left side of 14. There's nothing but disaster and penalty. He hit the thing nearly in 15 fairway. Gets a drop off the path, burned out a lie, hits it on the green, makes 4. And yeah, you hit one down the left-hand side. I'm wondering, talking about the word choke or whatever, because I find it unfair if we critique players and say they choke, because the pressure that these guys are under, we'll never fathom. And so that's an unfair representation. But I'm wondering if there's some scar tissue, because he blew one miles right, as you say. I was there for the playoff in New Orleans in the water. That cost them the victory. And then there was something down the track. All the events blur into one for me right now, but I had him the same thing. Coming down the stretch, he just blew one way out to the right-hand side where he gets a bit stuck on the ball that he tries to hit. And so maybe this was like, under pressure, I hit the thing to the right. I'm going to try and let this thing go. And then he hits it to the left-hand side. And that, to me, is a mental error of biblical proportion. for a golfer who's hugely experienced, a golfer who's won around the world, won a major championship. I'm like, Louis, you can't. When he hit it in there, I was like, I nearly lost my breath for him. It was horrendous.
I want to say one thing about the choking, because I understand what you're saying here, Mark, and I will just say this: I do think that it's fair to say that somebody choked, but that being said, you have to earn the right to choke under pressure, because not everybody gets a chance. Like you and I, Mark, we don't get a chance to choke under pressure because we're not good enough, right? And so it reminds me of this story, which is a little bit of a telephone game story. So if it's not exactly right, I apologize. But this is at Medalist in the golf shop at Medalist, and somebody's talking about Greg Norman, who started the place, and they're saying, I can't believe he lost that 6-shot lead at the Masters. He choked, and Greg overheard it, and he was there. And his response, I thought, was beautiful and highlights this perfectly. And he said, how many times have you had a 6-shot lead in the Masters? And it highlights that point exactly. In order to choke, you have to be there. You have to put yourself in position. So to say Louis choked is, yes, a negative thing, and none of us will ever know what that pressure is like. But he earns the right to choke there. So there is a positive line in a comment like that, which I think it's a good story, and I think it's an important delineation here.
Golf's very own Beetlejuice. If you say the word choking 3 times, Kyle Porter appears. I think I've got him. KP, did Louis choke?
So first of all, we can be critical, guys. Like it's not like, I don't know, they're critical of themselves, and I think no, I don't know. I don't like that word. I agree with kind of what you guys were saying, but I think you can. It just feels different, man. Like there's a reason Mackenzie Hughes shot 75 today, or 70, whatever. Russell Henley shot 76. Like it feels different. So whatever you want to call what that feeling is and what it does to your, like the differentiation between the way you played the first 3 rounds and the last round. If you want to call that choking, if you want to call that melting down, wilting, whatever it is, like it's something. There's a reason Mackenzie Hughes don't win U.S. Opens, right? And some of that is because he's not the ball striker that Jon Rahm is, and some of it is because Sunday is like a different sport. And so I understand what you guys,
single major.
Yeah, and like I understand what you guys are saying, but I think it's fair to say like, hey, you felt something and you played way differently than you have been, and that's like a real thing. And I don't know what word we use for it, but I do think it's real.
I'm going to move us along here a bit because there's someone I really am dying to get to. But shout out to Harris English, who Greg, we often say posting a number never works. Almost works for Harris English.
There was a moment.
He posted, I don't know what his position was when he posted 3 under, and that his paycheck got bigger as the day went on. These guys kept playing. They kept faltering. Harris English ends up solo 3rd. Not a bad day.
I want to look into this posting thing. I want to find out when the last time somebody posted a number and won, because it's talked about at length.
Has to be at an open.
If he could post, if he could just post, it'll be great. And it hardly ever happens. There's got to be a statistic out there.
It's got to be at an open championship, right?
Well,
like
it starts event. Leishman 2 years ago did it. Leishman was in the 5th to last group and shot 65 or 6 or whatever.
In 19, was he in the 5th to last group?
Yeah, it happens at this course often. Scott Stallings did it.
Snedeker did it on like Saturday night. He posted.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He posted the day before.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, I mean, I'd love to have some real data on it, because I just feel like it talked about.
This is real data, Greg. We're giving you years and players.
Yeah. Hey, I know it's great, and it's proving me wrong. I want to have a list. I want to see what I want to like look into this a little bit. It's my only point, because I have this feeling, which is clearly wrong.
While we're at it, when Jon Rahm got his first PGA Tour win, he posted here too. He wasn't
only
in
a
the second
Torrey
to last
Pines
group.
thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the Torrey Pines
The
thing.
Torrey Pines thing. There's
I don't
something
know.
about this golf course, the way it shakes out. That stretch of holes there, 14, 15, 16, they are brutes, man. And yeah, they say 18 is birdieable, but when you've fumbled your way through those holes, turning around to make a birdie on 18, which is why I tip my cap to Louis, because he must have felt horrid walking to 18T. And now you got to make eagle. You know, he was very cerebral about what he did, and to close with a birdie, that showed some gumption to me.
Yeah, it's a great point. So maybe Rick, maybe we're just off on our, and I'll take the credit for it. Maybe I'm just way off on that take, which is very possible.
I like the idea of it. We'll just look into it at non-Torrey Pines events. Okay, now it's time. Bryson DeChambeau went out in 33. That's 2 under par. KP, at one point, he held the solo lead of the U.S. Open, looking to go back-to-back, successfully defend his title. He then got into the Gauntlet, holes 11 through 17. 11, he made bogey. 12, he made bogey. 13, he made double. 17, he made a quad. And when the dust settled, he shot a 77 and finished T26.
Choked.
Choked.
It wasn't good.
Hey,
I mean, it was
shove
it was not. What were you saying, Mark?
No, I was making a very bad joke about choked. No, I was being silly. Forgive me.
It was weird, right? Like I didn't see 17. I don't know what happened there. But the way he was playing the course, and I kind of wrote about this last night, he's kind of figured out that, like, it feels like he's kind of solved the U.S. Open puzzle, right? Like, you don't have to hit fairways. He didn't even try to hit. It was like actively trying not to hit fairways. And you just don't, it doesn't matter if you hit them. And so like what he was doing was just working. Like he was just applying this plan, this formula, and it was working. And then it just didn't in a huge way. And maybe he started feeling, it seems like 11, 12, 13 would be really early to start feeling like that much pressure and that differently, especially when you're the defending U.S. Open champion. I think he just made some really bad decisions or bad breaks on 13. And then again, I don't know what happened on 17, but it looked like, I thought it was going to be him and Rory, and then they both hit the eject button. I mean, just they needed one of the paragliders' parachutes to come back down to earth after how hard they ejected.
Which Jacob has, he's showing on YouTube. He's got the usopen.com, so we're kind of watching Bryson's holes here. And, you know, Greg, this to me was a guy who, for the first 9, was in complete control. Oh my gosh. That was a bad one. What was
that?
I mean, he shanked it. He topped it. He bladed it. Pure in the forehead.
I had not seen that yet.
Yeah, smacked it right. He smacked it right in the forehead, Greg. I mean, this is he went from completely in control of his game to completely out of control of his game. And I know it happens fast, and I know the margins are very small, but man, it was this to me was shocking, because after he figured it out on, what would that have been, Thursday night, Friday morning in his sleep, I mean, he was unstoppable. There was a stretch of, I forget how many holes in a row. He played 28, 29 in a row without a book. He almost made an ace, guys. He was 1 inch away from making an ace on 8, and it would have been the highlight we showed it for in all eternity. It would have been the greatest shot ever en route to defending his U.S. Open crown. He was in complete, I cannot describe how much in control of this event he was. That's the way I felt when he made the turn.
You're right, Rick. It looked like this was going to be a complete runaway. And I don't know if any of you guys caught it. Yeah, this is 8. This one was sweet. And so he also hit a really nice third shot into 9 and had a great look for birdie. It was downhill. It was fast. It didn't go in. But, I mean, it really was starting to look like a runaway. And then all of a sudden on 11, well, it started on 10. He hit a tee shot a little bit to the right. And then on 11, I don't know if you guys heard it, but somebody was yelling a little early. And I don't know if it distracted him or if he just missed it to the right. So he misses that one to the right, makes bogey. On 12, he misses to the right again, makes another bogey. And then on 13, he misses to the right again, gets a bad lie in the rough, and he tries to get a little more. Maybe he tries to get a little more out of it than he should have, and he leaves it in the rough again, and then he hits it into the first bunker of those 3 bunkers on the hill, and he just kept hitting it into bad places. And it was like he tried to kind of overpower it, and it didn't work. But all 3 of those were to the right, and on 12, his foot slipped big time. His right foot slipped tremendously. I mean, he almost whiffed. I'm surprised he made contact with the ball.
was 13,
he didn't almost whiff, but he could have whiffed.
Yeah, it was 13.
No, 12
13.
12 T. Watch this.
There's 13. That's
13.
Oh, that's 13 T. Okay. Well, that's the one. That's
And then
the one I'm thinking of.
The thing that got him in trouble was the layup, though, right? The second shot
Right,
where he
leaves
left it in
the rough.
and then it was downhill from there. He ended up next to a 12-pack of Stella up behind the green, which is just that's not where you want to be on Sunday. I mean, that's where you want to be on that's where you want to be on Tuesday, but
That's
not
where
Sunday.
I want to be on Sunday, next to the 12-pack of Stella. Mark, what did you make of this, Mark?
This is where I'd love to chime in. Okay, he's flushed it over the first 8 holes or so. Then he misses one left on 9. Hits it wide right on, as Greg said, on 9, 10, same thing. Gets lucky down there in the rough. 11 misses a 7-iron way right. 12 hits it off the planet on the right-hand side. Then the foot slips on 13. But here's where I question Bryson. On 13, he's hit the stuff in ankle-high rough. But the whole thing that he's telegraphed to everybody is, I'm going to bomb and gouge. Now, instead of just taking some sort of iron out there, hitting the thing down into the valley there and wedging it on the green, he's like, no, I'm going to try and bludgeon this thing out of this lie into as close to the green as I can. Gets himself in that one of those greenside bunkers, which is cooked. Those bunkers down there are just no dice, okay? And then he turns that turns into disaster in the double bogey, because then he's chopping around over the green. It was like human one-man ping pong. So I'm looking at this going, some stage you've just got to step away from the thing a little bit. It's like my critique at Augusta National. Certain times you've got to massage your way around that golf course. You can't just be swinging for the fences all of the time. And then on 17, I'm like, you can have yourself a decent finish, but still we're going to try and whip driver down there. And he too hits the thing in no man's land down the left-hand side. And all the other misses had been to the right. So it said to me, I'm like, Bryson, if you're just shown the real smarts about you and you get yourself back against the ropes, you can't punch your way out of that at times. Sometimes you just got to make the prudent play. And he didn't on 13 and essentially cooked his own goose over there. And so I was, for Bryson's sake, because he did look really good, disappointed for him. And I hope that he rused the decision that he made there on 13.
I want to run this right back. I want to run. Sorry, go ahead, Greg.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I agree with you to an extent, Mark, but at the same time, this concept works because he's willing to take on the risk. And it reminds me of like a Phil Mickelson conversation, right? Phil Mickelson loses a lot of tournaments, but he loses a lot of tournaments, and that gives him the ability to win a lot of tournaments. So if I'm Bryson, I mean, I maybe that lie on 13 is a little warped. Maybe he did try to get too much out of it, but there is a philosophy here that includes some risk, and I don't think Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm not for 1 minute saying the philosophy doesn't work, but I'm saying there are situations where you step away from it slightly and make the play that the name on the side of your bag indicates that you're making a professional decision under the circumstances here.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I think that's fair. I think it's easy for us to say, well, he shouldn't have done what he did on those 2 holes. When, like, if he has a better lie on 13, like, I don't know what his lie was on 13, but if he's able to pop that up, we're like, see, he just applies what he does and it works, like, it's just
all right. You never talk about it if it works.
Like, it's almost all or nothing, right? He either does it, and again, maybe he had a bad lie, and I think in that instance, Mark's critique is like, that's fair, like, get it back out, make a 6 there even, and you don't take yourself out of the tournament.
On the hole before that, Kyle, he hit the thing wide right on 12 and drew a horrid lie and absolutely bashed this 8-iron from, like, whatever the number was to the front edge of the green.
Yeah.
If he does the same thing on 13, we are not having this conversation.
But isn't that what he tried to?
He needed to hit an 8-iron. It was a club choice for you, Mark. Is that what you're saying?
I mean,
Isn't
he's
that
trying to
what he-
advance it as far down there as he possibly can.
Wait,
Yeah.
I'm confused. Maybe.
Well, because see, I agree with you on 12. Like that's the scenario where it works, right? You're trying to it's crazy to try to hit that thing over the tree from that rough. You're carrying a lot of rough on the way to the front edge of the green. Is that crazy? Well, is the difference in your opinion, Mark, the club selection, or
Are you talking about the
'cause
second shot on 13?
Yeah,
Or the
second shot
third?
on 13. Yeah,
Oh, the second.
shot on,
Okay.
second on 13. You are so far in that heavy Kikuyu rough that with his strength, if he just powers a 9-iron or a wedge out there, he gets the thing down in that valley, he wedges it on the
Yeah.
green, he gives himself 15 feet or whatever, 20 feet for birdie. If he hits a
What did
poor
he
wedge,
hit?
that's 30 feet.
What did he?
I
What
don't
did he?
know, but he looked like he was saying a mighty lash at something. And why I can make this comment with some authority is on the hole prior. He had one this deep in the rough as well and was able to move an 8-iron 190 yards to the front edge of the green. That's all I'm saying.
I understand.
Yeah,
what
I
you're
don't.
saying.
Go ahead, Rick.
I want to move us here a little bit, but I think we have a rare opportunity here that we have to talk about because I don't know if you guys have realized this. Mark has spent a lot of time on Twitter this week. I actually think it's a little detrimental to his health, and I've got another one here for you, Mark. So you might have seen this. Bryson obviously took some lines this week that were intentionally into the stands, and he did not give us a yell at any point. He never offered up a 4 to those out there in the viewing audience, and I wonder how you felt about that.
Me?
Yes, you.
Well, I know the players weren't that happy about it. It's just not in the interests and the standard of the game. I mean, he was supposed to be. So I understand he's perhaps trying to hit them over the gallery's heads and stuff. But I watched, a dear friend of mine and a countryman, where on 11, Louis hits one out to the right, and they had the close up on him afterwards, where you could see the ball was airborne, and they had the tight shot on his face, and he was like, he shot it 4 twice, and then you can see him going, "Oh, please don't hurt somebody." Because this is a thing, right? When the fans are in there close. And I can tell you from multiple players I've worked with, when the fans start leaning over the ropes and you back there on the tee 50 yards back, they're looking at faces here going, I could end someone's life. And so you play with a certain amount of circumspection. So I'm not going to critique Bryson for that sort of thing, but I'm just saying, if you're going to do that, and it sounds like this is what he's going to do, at least please give us the courtesy of going, hey, down the right 4 over on the right hand side.
Real quick, I want to know what made Mark the most mad that he saw on Twitter this week. I just want one take, just fire one off.
No, I wasn't mad. I was just commenting on golf the afternoon. I was kind of doing what you did. I just wouldn't make as many hot takes. I
thought Mark was especially spicy in the Saturday night recap. The people who thought Russell Henley was going to melt down. I forget what the exact stuff was, but I thought Mark was especially spicy on Saturday evening.
Yeah, well, look, I was, and that got me going on Saturday morning when I woke up. I just don't like it when. And everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm entitled to mine here. And I just don't like it when someone can just make these sweeping statements about some guy who's laying everything on the line there in front of millions of folks. And in golf, you got this game where there's enforced timeouts over every shot. And there's more to it than just hitting a shot. There could be a poor lie that you don't know about. Or there's all sorts of variables that are always up there in the ether that we don't really know about. Yet we can make these statements about these folks going, well, he's got no chance. And I'm like, just let's be a little careful and cognizant about this sort of stuff because.
But isn't that our job to do that?
It's not my job. It might be yours.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not. It's not mine. My job is to analyze golf. And I will say to you if the guy looks nervous or whatever the case might be when I'm out there. But I'm not going to make some statement. And I saw a bunch of it on Saturday morning going, oh, well, sorry for these guys. They're not going to last. And Russell turned around and said, whatever, I made it another round. So these guys are good. They've earned their right. They've earned their right to be out there. I'm like, let them play. I will critique a poor play. Don't get me wrong. I hope you've heard me say so. And I did that some this afternoon, but I'm not going to start calling them out before they've even had a chance to tee it up.
I think it's fair. I think it's very, very fair. My pick to win, gentlemen, was Colin Morikawa. And Greg, I thought I was going to steal one. I thought I was going to steal one here because Morikawa birdies 2, he birdies 4. Then he missed, let me see here. I want to get the exact shot tracker here. Missed a birdie putt on 6 from 6 feet 11 inches. Not necessarily a gimme. Would have been nice to have. Then he stuffs one at 8 to 3 feet 9 inches. Misses that. Again, not okay. That might be a gimme. That's kind of a gimme. Then he plays 13, a par 5, an opportunity where guys are making birdies, makes double. Kind of had the same issue where his layup got into the rough, and if your layup was in the rough on 13, you were in big trouble. Colin Morikawa would have liked 2 of those shots back, would have liked 3 of those shots back. Ends up finishing T4. Great result, but feels like he left a lot out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a element of this that I really like in Colin Morikawa coming that close. I mean, really being within 4 shots there, you can count 4 putts inside of 10 feet that he could have made. So it's not like he's not long enough. He's not a big enough hitter, right? His model will work, and it can work very clearly. So I love the way he played the last 3 rounds. I give him a ton of credit. I thought his Friday round was really gutsy. And we talked about it on Friday night, Rick, how with just 2 kind of steady rounds, Colin Morikawa could win. And he did that. I thought he would need 2 69s, 4 under par over the weekend, and I thought that would get the job done. It wouldn't have. It would have missed by 2 shots. But he did play 2 great steady rounds, and just a couple of mishaps cost him. But what an impressive player.
KP, he was 4 over par. I'll go back even further. He was 6 over through his first 16. 6 over through his first 16. He eagled 18 on Thursday to shoot a 75, 4 over par. That could have been it. The guy grinds himself back into the golf tournament, has a real chance on Sunday, and barring a few small missteps in a part of his game that we know is not strong and we know he's going to spend a lot of time working on, he's that close.
I thought he missed the cut, to be honest.
Yeah, he should have. He should have missed the cut.
It's interesting. I didn't think Morikawa was going to play that well this week because his game just doesn't really fit what we talked about coming in, right? Like he's not long. I mean, relatively, he's not long. I didn't see what was his fairways. Like, what was his fairway percentage? Do we have that, producer Jacob?
71%.
Okay,
Yeah.
So he had a ton of fairways. That probably led to
Tons.
or second or third.
T2
like that.
Yep, T2.
And that was the deal, right? We said, hey, Colin Morikawa's got to like lead the field in fairways hit to have a shot. And that's what he did. That's really impressive to be able to do that. And he just let what he does best, which is his ball striking, his iron play, take over. So, I don't like this modern U.S. Open thing where it's just bash it and go find it, and who cares if you hit fairways? It doesn't really matter. I mean, I don't think Rahm hit that. What was Rahm's fairway percentage?
It was
54%.
52, T28.
Yeah, so it's not like it's not good. It's not in the top 10, top 15, which is traditionally I think what we think of when we think, oh, win the US. I heard Webb saying that in an interview. It was like this special thing on the 2012 US Open. He's like, I like US Opens because that's my deal. I hit fairways. I'm not that long. And I feel like it's kind of gone away from that a little bit, just the setup and the courses. And we talked about that coming in. So all that, I thought what Morikawa throughout the course, just to get in attention at all, regardless of what happened on Thursday, was really, really impressive.
Yeah, Mark, I'm running out of superlatives. I keep saying he answers all the questions. I keep piling off and listing off all the wins and the close calls and the contentions. But here we are. I don't even know, 1.5, 2 years into this professional career, and he just continues to seemingly get better. And I'm scared for everybody as he continues to evolve in this young career.
Yeah, I personally think he will contend in future US Opens. And I want to point back to two things that you guys have said. First off, that battle back that he showed in the second round, where I think he shot 67,
He did.
and
He did.
he didn't get off to a fast start. That takes a tremendous emotional and mental toll on one playing this style of game, where pars are good and it's almost like attrition, and there's a lot of survival. And I think, if you have to go through that, and everybody does, where you're playing yourself back from way behind the eight ball, that takes its toll on one. And then the rest of the time, you're existing on adrenaline. And he has a decent day Sunday, survives some, then gets off to a decent start, and all of a sudden, he makes birdies, and now the adrenaline is surging, right? And then on 8, he stiffs one in there to what, 3.5, 4 feet, and doesn't even touch the hole. In fact, hits it the same distance beyond the hole. That adrenaline ended right there. And then from then on, you could see him was trying to sort of fire, but there was this like take a step forward, fall back, because now the guy is running on empty. And that's something, again, that you can't really quantify. He strokes gained off the tee. I actually just had a look. Strokes gained, off the tee. He was third in the field, unless I'm missing something. So
I have him at second.
yeah. Okay. So
It might have been third for Sunday.
He's doing everything, but then again, there's this thing where I think he just wore himself out. And then when he missed that short putt on 8, it was like, there's just this letdown. Someone lets the air out of the balloon. And I don't know this for sure, but you can see it happen oftentimes when you see guys play. It's like they're going through the routines and they're going through the motions and stuff, but there's just nothing there. You could almost see the same thing out of McIlroy coming down the stretch, where he was going, and then there was the one misstep, and then another, and there's like, and you could see him battling, but it just wasn't there. They'd sort of run out of gas in the tank, and I think that was some of what happened to Colin this week.
How about Go ahead, Greg.
Go ahead. I was just going to say the jinx. Anyway, you owe
It's a
me
tough
a
scene for us. This is our handshake moment. We can't get the handshake right.
Yeah, tough scene. You hate to see it. But anyway, I was going to say, I love the fight of Morikawa. In one, he battles back on Friday, I think is huge. And I think back to the Memorial, where he hit it really poorly, especially for Colin Morikawa, and all of a sudden finds the putter. Because he just finds ways to score, finds ways to get it done. The putt-in has to improve, but what he does with the flat stick is going to go, or what he does, ball striking, and what he can do with the flat stick is the thing that's going to keep him contending in future U.S. Opens, in future majors, and regularly and consistently throughout many years to come.
KP, what were you going to say?
Only 2 top 10 putters in the top 12 of the leaderboard, which I feel like is a little bit usually we get a couple more like guys that had really great putting weeks up in that top 10 or 12. I thought that was a little bit unusual.
Scotty Scheffler gained 8.5 strokes putting. He finished T7. The other one would have been Louis Oosthuizen. He gained 7.44, finished runner-up. Adam Hadwin was up there, T40. Rick Lamb, T46. Taylor Montgomery, T57. So yeah, that's what Kyle is referring to. Also, Xander Schauffele led the field in strokes gained off the tee. That's kind of
Xander might be allergic to leads. Like he might have a allergic to the lead problem. I don't know. It's disappointing. I actually do have to go now because I got to finish this column. I might be out of take. Oh, my last take. I think Torrey is. I think it's not that good. I think it's fine. I think it's okay. I don't know if we want to dive into that before they. What are you gonna say, Rick?
Yeah, go ahead. Give us the bullet points for why Torrey is fine.
Well, it's just kind of boring, right? Like there's not a ton of risk reward holes. There's only like 1 or 2 holes where there's any runoff. Like if you miss a green and it runs away, I think that's super compelling. But I will say this:
that's a USGA setup thing because a lot of greens at Torrey are elevated. A lot of the greens at Torrey Pines are perched up, so that's not a Torrey Pines thing. That's a USGA setup thing if you're growing rough around greens.
For sure it is, and I agree with that. And so it's partly a Torrey take and partly a setup deal. But I will say this about Torrey: I think that it's the type of place where because there's not a ton of risk reward holes, you're going to get a bunch leaderboard like this. And the bunch leaderboard is going to be all the best players because all the best players are playing. And so while for the first couple of days, it might not be a super entertaining product like a Shinnecock, right? Or even like a Pebble or a Riviera, I think is more risk reward type stuff. At the end on Sunday, it's going to be awesome, like it was for most of the day on Sunday. So I think that's the critique of it is also what makes it an entertaining product at the back end of it. So I think the takeaway, the end of it is positive, even if like the whole thing just kind of left me feeling a little bit tepid.
There were certainly some valid criticisms of Torrey Pines. I think that's the fact that it's a muni, that it's a public course that anybody can play, and that it's got a great visual. I think that tries to offset some of these things, but architecturally and setup wise, I wish there were more holes that weren't necessarily driver holes. Where I think you could basically hit driver or are encouraged to hit driver on every single hole, and a drivable, a short par 4 would be nice.
Yeah, I miss the short par 4. I think that's always super compelling. And just all the holes kind of look the same to me. Not all of them. 3 and 4 are awesome. 2's kind of cool. But they just, I don't know. They just, but again, like the flip side of it is we got Rahm, Morikawa, Rory, Bryson, all these guys contending on a Sunday. That was the end of the week was really, really good. It was fun.
That's Kyle Porter. Get out of here. Go do your work. You can follow him on Twitter at Kyle Porter CBS. Thanks for hopping on. That is a perfect time for us to segue because we are going to do our one and done update. And I hate to say it, we've got a new leader. So we're going to get to that. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. And we're back. I wish Coach was here because I can finally give him some credit here, gentlemen. This is our one and done update. Coach, who entered the week approximately 2.5 million, just earned Mark 1.3 million with Louis Oosthuizen. Coach just earned. That is by far the most he has earned in. Okay, let me do this for you. Coach has made 24 picks previous to this. He earned a combined 1.5 million. He just got 1.3 million this week.
I wish I'd picked Louis. I don't know what on earth I was thinking. I was going for a guy that I thought was a sure thing around Torrey Pines, but that's for another time. But I'm happy for Coach. He's getting a little closer to us, so at least it gives him a little bit more room to spout off.
Yeah, we're going to get to your pick in just a second. Jacob, he went with Brooks Koepka. Pretty good week, $553,000. Moves him to 4.3 million. Jacob, do you want to come on and tell us if you are satisfied or not with Brooksy?
I'm okay with this. Me and a buddy in another league we're in, we took Jon Rahm. So, we're still celebrating here. I didn't have Rahm available in this league, but I would have taken Rahm. But, coulda, woulda, shoulda.
That's right. You used Jon Rahm very early. You took him at you took him at Winged Foot. You took him at the 2020 U.S. Open. He got you 95,000. I think anytime you get 553,000 from any golfer, I think you got to be pretty happy with that. So you moved to 4.3 million. Kyle is next. Kyle, 7.4 million, Greg. He went with that guy, Bryson DeChambeau. And I think as Bryson made the turn, Kyle was probably counting his millions, and as those strokes were rolling in on the back nine, those were costing not only Bryson DeChambeau a lot of cash, but costing Kyle Porter a lot of cash as well.
Yeah, disappointing because the thing with 17, it's for a player like Bryson, he's playing for the trophy, and when the trophy gets out of touch and it's the end of a long week, I'm not saying that guys are giving up because I don't believe that, but like what Mark was saying, where there's just nothing left, that happens. And when you realize that you don't have a chance to win anymore, the tank, you lose the adrenaline. And so the tank is empty for everybody for a really long time. But many of the players are running on adrenaline because they're still in the mix. And when you lose touch of the lead and you know that it's over, it's very easy it's very easy to lose your adrenaline, and then the tank's empty. So I think that happened. It's tough to see, especially when you're on so much after 8 at the turn. You're flying as high as possible, and it's just shattered. So I really feel for Bryson, but what a performance! Another great pick from Kyle Porter. It was kind of disappointing down the stretch.
91,000 moves Kyle to 7.4 million. Mark, you're up next. $500,000 clear of Kyle. You're at 7.9, which is unfortunately where you started the week, because you did go with Tony Finau, who previous to this had played really well at Torrey Pines. He missed the cut and earns $0.
Yeah, that was disappointing because Tony's record around there is great. I mean, he contended in the very last edition of the Farmers Insurance Open, and he was 7 for 7 with cuts made. So I figured, hold on, place where you strike the ball well. He's from Utah, so he can putt these Pioneer greens a little bit better. And oftentimes these greens sort of mitigate putting skill, which is why you see some of the strokes gained putting numbers go off the charts. And some guys kind of rim putts in and some guys lip putts out because those Pioneer greens get a little hair raising. So I was like, it was always going to be a dicey pick. And I figured someone who was not chalk-ish, but sort of would be a good selection. I was vacillating between he and Bryson. But then I decided, thankfully now, looking at what transpired now over the back nine, that I'm saving Bryson for Detroit in 2 weeks' time, where it's a bent grass greens place, where you can calculate those things and still use the green books while they're available, and do all of Bryson's stuff and take it over the top of dog legs and stuff. So I'm hoping Bryson comes through in 2 weeks' time. But this was a misstep, and I'm hoping there's enough time to make up some ground on Greg and you.
For the first time in a long time, I'm next. 8.7 million. I went with Brooks. I got 553,000. I just told Jacob he has to be happy with that result. So I have to be happy with that result, but it pales in comparison to you, Greg, who went with Jon Rahm. He got you 2.25 million. You have now earned over 2 million in 2 separate events. You got the winner of the November Masters, Dustin Johnson. You got the winner of the 2021 US Open, Jon Rahm. You also earned another $1 million from Tony Finau at Riviera. You've got 3 separate $1 million winners, and you are now about $250,000 clear. I will take off the crown. I will pass it over to you. Congratulations.
And I will bow in honor, because it's been an honor to operate under your lead, Rick, because it was quite a lead for quite a while, and this is far from over. This super season, I was telling a couple of friends of mine that our league has. We started, at the U.S. Open or Safeway Open, and they were like, "What are you guys? I can't believe you're playing 50 events." Mm-hmm. And we're playing 50 events, and so it's been quite a wild ride. Does this make me a popper, by the way? Am I a popper?
You are officially a popper.
Major, even though I've won majors.
Yes, it doesn't matter
Right,
if like 80% of your results come in 10% or less. Yeah, you're a popper. I think it's perfect. Hey, it works, man. It works.
Yeah, I've been kind of reeling in some dark times, and I have a list of people that I want to thank. I'm only teasing. It's been great fun, and when a player like DJ wins the Masters and he's expected to, a player like Jon Rahm wins the U.S. Open and he's expected to, I'm just happy I had him available, because I know Jacob didn't. I know it's an easy pick. But it's really cool when they do it, because there's a lot of, not only do we know that they should win, but they know that they should win. And that's a lot of pressure to play with. So I give them all the props in the world, and I greatly thank them.
Yeah. Part of the skill is sticking to your strategy, not burning someone because you panic. Mark's very good at this. Honestly, he's probably got 6 or 10 guys already filled out for the year before the year starts, and he sticks with it. I start to panic. I start to think I got to make up ground. I'm gonna go off pace. So I want to be
making
more
double
like,
at 3 because you're 5
right.
back.
Right?
Correct. Mark's hitting the middle of the green.
Right, and he knows he's got some some arrows in the quiver for later. Yeah, I like that.
JT, Rory, who's starting to play really nicely. I got a few blue chips left.
Yeah, I think I have Bryson, and that's it. I'm just kind of scanning. Have I used Rory? Yes. I used him at November Masters.
Next week's going to be the challenge. I'm sort of on Brandon Grace right now. He told me he was going to be playing. I'm not sure. He's playing well, and he's played well there before. I'm going to get by next week, and then I've got stuff mapped out for the closing stretch.
All right. There you go.
Yeah.
Early
Webb at Wyndham. Don't forget Webb at Wyndham.
Webb at Wyndham. Webb at Wyndham. I knew that one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, gentlemen. I think that'll do it. Our U.S. Open recap episode. We have a new major champion. His name is Jon Rahm. Congratulations. We will be back on Monday for a DFS preview for the Travelers Championship. We're headed to Connecticut. But for now, let me thank producer Jacob, does all the hard work behind the scenes. That right there, that's Mark Immelman. You can find him at Mark_Immelman. And that's Greg DuCharme, who you can find at The Real GFD. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut, and we'll catch you next time.